Hello, and welcome to the Sacred Sister Podcast, where we normalize the magic
and sacralize the mundane. My name is Brett.
And I'm Hannah.
And we just want to welcome you to another episode that we have been so excited to record and that we just honestly can't wait to open up discussion on. What are we speaking on today?
We're going to be speaking on tarot and oracle decks, how to use them, what they are, what's the difference, how do we work with them, and we're also going to have a little action guide at the end.
Yes. Did you mention misconceptions as well?
I didn't.
There we go. We're going to address just a few misconceptions because we know that just like everything else in the spiritual world, there are a lot of misconceptions that happen naturally.
Mm-hmm.
So opening up these conversations and just looking at them and talking about them, we feel like is a very positive and effective way to, just gain greater insight, gain more perspective.
Yes.
Let go of fears.
Yes, and also giving you tools to respond to naysayers in case they don't like what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that whenever we become more empowered in the things that we are choosing to do and spend our time doing, the less it matters what other people have to say about the things that we do in our lives, the more empowered we feel, the more liberated we're able to act, and the more we're able to move.
Yes.
Ultimately, which is what we're trying to do.
Because ultimately, they're just afraid. The naysayers are just going to be afraid. They have their own fears. It's not about what you do.
And it's okay, because as humans, we are conditioned to fear the things that we are totally intimidated by or just don't have any information about. We're supposed to fear the things that we don't know.
Yeah.
It's a safety mechanism.
Mm-hmm. Survival instinct.
Mm-hmm. So no harm, no foul. We love them all.
Yes.
But more and more people are opening up to brand new practices and getting curious at ways that they can bring greater conduits for change into their lives.
Yes, and I just read today actually in the Telegraph that more and more millennials especially are using tarot and oracle decks to ask questions about their life direction, about career, and really getting deeper into their own intuitive connection. And then I realized, oh wow, it's so perfectly aligned, because the generation that has Neptune in Capricorn is between 1984 to 1998, which is kind of embracing what we call millennials. And Neptune and Capricorn, Neptune is the spiritual planet, the mysticism, the unknown, and Capricorn is the energy of ambition and success and discipline and focus on that. So we are using these mystical things, these spiritual practices, we're using that to become better and more successful in who we are, especially the Neptune and Capricorn generation, and especially if you have strong aspects to that Neptune and Capricorn within your own chart.
And did you mention the years that people do have Neptune and Capricorn?
Yes, that's 1984 to 1998.
Beautiful.
So it's right around that millennial generation.
And this is not necessarily to say that people born before 1984 or after 1998 are outside of that, or that they're not allowed in the club.
Oh yeah, no. We're just saying that this is the collective, like the generation that has Neptune and Capricorn, we collectively learn about that. So you're gonna see a lot of people, especially during that time, that are now coming out to use that in their life direction and in their career.
Mm-hmm.
And so we see a lot of like spiritual life coaches now and healers, and so many people take that on as their business now, which was so different before, and spirituality had nothing to do with the business whole aspect. And now more and more people are spiritual entrepreneurs, and this is just the effect that Neptune and Capricorn had on us, and now we've all grown up and are able to implement that into this current life, into this current time that we're living in. So that was just a little extra. And additionally, this Neptune in Capricorn is being activated for a lot of us because we have lunar eclipse in Capricorn.
Happy full moon!
Happy full moon! And this lunar eclipse, just as we had solar eclipse 2 weeks ago, we were able to plant big seeds of intentions, and this lunar eclipse is a time where we can release a lot of stuff, and especially like things that are from generations of generations, old patterns that we've taken on from authorities, our parents, teachers, managers, bosses, whoever we see as authorities. And we can now let go of those limitations and rules that just don't resonate with us anymore and that are just holding us back from truly being who we are and unfolding our wings and fly.
Letting go of the struggle.
Yes.
Letting go of the struggle. Everyone who's listening right now, you have permission to let go of the struggle.
Yes. Sometimes we just need exactly that. We just need to hear it, that it's okay to let go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so helpful.
There's a part of us that almost feels like responsible for having to have trials or struggles, and a part of us that feels like we're doing something because we have those stresses in our lives. Yes. But actually, so many doors and gates will just start swinging right open. The signs and synchronicities, the miracles will start flooding when you give yourself permission to thrive. Mm-hmm. You don't need to stay burdened longer than you don't want to.
Yes. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be an uphill struggle all the time. It's fun to go up the mountain. It's a beautiful view. But to just go up the mountain is exhausting. You want to just slide down and just have fun too and let it go.
I was going to say, you can go home. Yeah. You don't have to go up the mountain all the time. You can go home. And I wanted to thank you so much for touching on that. I think it is such a beautiful perspective that you bring as a certified astrologer to this podcast, and I'm so grateful for it every time that you open up on these astrological transits and the way that they impact us as a collective, because it helps us when we have that kind of languaging that's very clear about the astrological transits. It really helps us, and you guide us to zoom out of the, just seeing things from like our little scope here out of our 2 little eyeballs that we have, and it's allowing us to really see the generational collective energies that are circulating, because ultimately when we're able to really see things at a greater scope impacting large groups of people, it gives so much more weight to this practice, and it helps us even open up conversations with other people about it too.
Yes, knowing that a lot of us are in the same boat right now and are going through similar experiences, just in different areas in our lives.
Totally. Love it.
Yay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so we're going to take all that lunar eclipse release with us, and also the celebration, because full moons are also time of celebration, and especially celebrating the Neptune life, the Neptune way of living, which is the mysticism and the intuition and the psychic abilities. And tarot and oracle decks are both ways to help us improve our intuition and help us really dive deeper into our own inner navigation system, because ultimately everything that tarot and oracle decks are gonna tell you, you already know inside of you. But seeing it in front of you in pictures or words written, it's this confirmation, it's this permission,
exactly,
that helps us to actually take the step and take it serious and be like, okay, I'm ready to let go. It's okay for me, and I'm ready to celebrate and spread my wings and be myself.
We almost got into the meditation and totally forgot to read our new review.
Oh, yes.
We're so psyched, ladies and gents, whoever's listening to us, our sacred family. We are so excited because since the last time that we recorded, we've gotten 4 new ratings and 2 new reviews.
Woohoo!
So I just wanted to take this moment to say thank you so much to everyone who has dedicated just a little bit of time to either giving us that 5-star rating or writing us a little review. And I wanted to let you know, for those of you that don't know the algorithms of the podcast systems, really the reviews And ratings are not so much just to make us feel happy and sparkly and well appreciated and loved. All that's well and good as well. But if you are someone who wants to help us make this podcast easier in searches for people to find, that's what the ratings especially do. So you don't need to leave a comment if you don't want to, but even just the ratings really help people. It helps us, our Sacred Sister podcast, kind of jump higher on the spiritual category for podcasts. So it makes us easier to find.
It makes us more accessible.
Exactly. More accessible. Beautiful. So this beautiful comment came in from Caitlin Uten, it looks like. And she said, I have found this beautiful podcast to be an amazing resource and place of support, especially recently. I love the raw, unedited, and vulnerable nature of every episode. I always save the Sacred Sister podcast for when I can really sit, ground down, and focus just on the information I am being shown. It is a wonderful treat for my soul. Love you so much. I am so grateful for you both.
Aw, love you, Kate.
Love you, Kate.
Thank you.
I read that to my husband the morning after we got it, and he started crying. He was like, I'm so proud of you too. Because this is the kind of beautiful stuff that the internet is really good for curating.
Oh, yeah.
We can use it for any type of connection that we choose. And this is the kind that feeds mine and Hannah's hearts so fully.
Yes. And feeding so many other people's hearts too. We're so grateful for that. It's such a blessing. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
So let's dive in. Let's dive into the tarot episode. And as you know, we always start with a little meditation to just allow ourselves to ground into the moment. Again, let go of the day and really be present throughout the next hour that we're going to be having together.
Oh, sacred sister, a kindred flame, may we light one another. From the ashes rise, oh, we rise, oh, again.
So let's find a comfortable seat. Close your eyes if you can. And let's take a deep breath in through the nose. And out through the mouth. I love sighing out things because it always just helps to bring energy and sound to what we are ready to release. So let's do that again with a loud sigh, as loud as you can in your surroundings, wherever you're at right now. So let's take a deep breath in together again through the nose. The power of sighing. Now a deep breath in. Really feel that burden just falling off. Any stress, any tension that we have throughout the day, just let it go. Have a deep breath in. Beautiful. Maybe shake out your hands too if you feel like it. Just some stretches. Oh, nice. Some cracks.
I've been trying to get that one out for like 15 minutes.
It's the best. As soon as we start breathing too, those cracks are happening because we allow ourselves to breathe into our attentions and we're creating space. So now a deep breath in together. And out. Beautiful. Now let's settle into a comfortable rhythm of breathing through the nose, in and out, whatever rhythm that feels comfortable to you. Now imagine that feeling a light inside your heart. Whenever you breathe in, that light grows bigger, and it's like it grows into this beautiful full moon. Let's do that together, breathing in together. Grow it into this beautiful big full moon. And now let's breathe it out. Allow it to be smaller and smaller and turning into the new moon, the dark moon, which is completely black. Again, have a deep breath in, creating bigger and bigger moon, going from crescent to first quarter to waxing to full moon, full blossoming of your light. And breathing it out, going through the gibbous moon, the waning moon, and really allowing it to go smaller and smaller until it becomes dark again. Let's do that again for the next 3 breaths on your own rhythm. And now imagine on your next breath in, imagine to make that full moon even bigger. Think about you breathing all the way in and then just a little bit more. Just allow yourself to receive a little bit more air than you think that is possible. And when you breathe out, allow yourself to release a little bit more than you think is possible. Often we only breathe on about 30% of what our capacity of our lungs is possible to take in. Our normal breath often is only 30% of what is possible. And depending on how much we're breathing in and allowing ourselves to receive in the form of oxygen, that directly correlates to what we allow ourselves to receive in this everyday life. So allow yourself to receive more fully. Allow yourself to receive more love. Allow yourself to receive more abundance. Allow yourself to receive more power in your own abilities and the way you show up in life. Allow yourself to receive more wisdom and new perspectives. Allow yourself to receive support from the people surrounding you and from the spirit beings that are with you at all times. And whenever you call them, they are here to support you. Allow yourself to receive you in all your capacity, in all your power, in all your love, and all your wisdom. Let's take another deep breath in together. And expand it even more. Even more. Opening up even more. Receive it even more. And let it go. And let go even more. All the way, all the old stuff out. Let go of that old air. That old stuff, that old baggage from the past that we no longer need. That is just holding us back. That is just taking up space for the new stuff that we're ready to let in. And another deep breath in. And notice how you can breathe in even more right now. Make that full moon even bigger, expanding the whole room. Wherever you're at, expanding it to the whole room. Making it even bigger, maybe expanding throughout the whole city that you live in. Maybe expanding it around the whole earth. And let it go. Letting it go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Really feel into the space now where you know that your capacity to receive has been broadened and widened. Your capacity to celebrate yourself for who you are and showing up as your true self is now full, like the full moon. Congratulations. Let's take a deep breath in together and sigh it out. And shake it out too. Whenever you're ready, just open your eyes slowly. Come back into the space.
That was so exciting. What an adventure.
I love
Even
that.
more. I was like, where are we going? And for the sake of, thank you so much. Wow, that was such a beautiful meditation. Wow.
Thank you.
Can we all just hold that? Let's just take a moment. It's like that idea of feeding the meditation. Remember when we were at Spirit Weavers and Amy would say, feed the song. After we would sing such a beautiful song, it was feed the song. Thank you, song. Thank you for coming through. Thank you, meditation.
Yes. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
coming
meditation,
through.
for coming through. Feed the meditation.
We feed you, we love you, we appreciate
We
you.
love you. And this, it was so hard to keep my lips closed at a certain amount of time because recently a lot of songs have been coming through. For those of you that don't follow me on Instagram, I share a lot of my singer-songwriter things that come through. And this song just came through so loud and I have to say it, otherwise I'm going to forget it right now.
Yes.
So it was like, making my path come alive when I can see on the inside the moon. There we go. Okay, I'll work on it later, but I had to say it out loud, otherwise I'm gonna forget.
Yes. Sounds beautiful. I'm excited to hear the full version.
Thanks, we'll see.
Yeah.
I was like, shoot, I can't write it down anywhere. I need to remember the melody, so I've got to say it on the podcast.
This is how raw and unedited we are.
It really is. And
you know, I think it's fun to share the very beginnings of a creative process, because sometimes when we just see the finished result, it's like, you know, it can make people think that they're not allowed to, you know, it can assess their own limitations, that they limit themselves. But there you go. You just heard it wasn't even in pitch or anything. I'm going to work on it though.
Yes, we can hear and feel and see the potential in it.
It's not perfect. It's not supposed to be.
Exactly. It's a seed.
It's a seed.
It's a seed. We all start with the seed. No one starts with the tree right away.
Yeah.
And that's just what we see from the outside. We just see the outside stuff. But actually, in order to create a big tree, we also want to create a big, strong root system, because otherwise, whatever storm comes to you, you're just going to be blown away.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways to really establish that deep root system with our inner guidance is tarot and oracle decks. Here we are. So why is it important, besides that it helps us gain such deeper clarity on who we are in our intuitive, like increases our intuitive ability?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the two main words that I was thinking of when I was thinking of why do I use tarot was gaining perspective or gaining awareness and deepening intuition.
Mm-hmm.
I can definitely say for myself, and we'll go into it a lot later when we're talking about our own personal practices with these pieces, I was someone that before I started working with tarot intuitively, I didn't feel a strong connection with my own intuition, period. I really wanted to develop it, but I didn't naturally feel that inside of myself. So this has been it was like my life pre-tarot and decks and my life after tarot and decks. Mm-hmm. It was stark difference. So anyone that I feel like, and I feel like it's a huge conversation in spiritual communities right now anyways, a lot of people, you know, asking, I always hear people say that it's inside of myself, but how do I wake it up? How do I access this?
Yes.
I know all the answers are inside, but it's what do I do? Give me some help. Give me some guidance. Mm-hmm. And these are what the wisdom of these cards can be. Yes, totally.
And we're going to be talking about tarot and oracle decks, both of them. So we're just going to be looking at a little bit of the difference between the two. So the oracle deck is basically, you can find all kinds of oracle decks about really any topic that you like. If it's angels, ascended masters, fairies, animals,
any kind of symbolism,
anything. Yeah. It is amazing how much is out there.
Colors, crystals.
And there is not really a rule in oracle decks. It's really almost no boundaries. You can do whatever you want, pretty much any amount of cards as well. And so that's pretty much the difference from oracle to tarot, because tarot has a lot more rules to it. Tarot is an ancient technique. We actually never really know the exact history of tarot. They've been showing up in different ancient civilizations, but also in northern Italy, and just were used as playing cards for a long time, and then developed into divination cards. But then other sources say that there were divination cards before, and then developed into playing cards because people forgot the wisdom in it. So
or they scratched out the wisdom in it.
Or out.
So that it could travel all across the world.
Yes.
Because this is times whenever it took a much longer time for things to make it around the world.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating, though. There are a few documentaries on Gaia. If you aren't already on Gaia, there's two, I think, specifically that talk about a lot of different theories of where tarot originated and how playing cards are a part of that story, which is so fascinating.
Yes, and actually the way that I got in contact with tarot for the first time was through playing cards. So I was around 12 years old, and my dad got me a book, and I'm not 100% sure how he got that book. I want to say he was in some sort of business training where they gave out these books, and it was this huge, thick book about divination, on playing cards. And it is very similar to tarot, but it's just used with playing cards, so it makes it a little bit more complicated, because if you think about the playing cards, you see the 9 of hearts, you basically just see 9 hearts, and then it's like, all right, what's gonna be the intuitive insight that I'm getting from this? And this is what tarot is doing. It actually, and especially with the Smith Rider-Waite deck, they were the first one that changed the normal 9 of hearts or 9 of cups kind of look to an actual image, to then help spark our own intuition and make it more accessible at the same time. So you can do all these divination techniques with normal playing cards, but we do recommend to start with tarot decks and with tarot cards, and especially with the Smith Rider-Waite, because those are like the standard of all the other tarot decks that you pretty much can purchase. And
Wait, to clarify, are you saying you would recommend people to go to the Smith Rider-Waite as the first deck, or tarot before Oracle? Because I can't tell what you're trying to say.
oh, no, I was just talking about tarot. So if you start with tarot, I would recommend the Smith Rider-Waite deck as the beginning deck, because it has all the drawings and the meanings of the cards, and you're gonna notice that it's basically the base of all the other decks. Of pretty much all the other decks. It's gonna help you learn the other decks as well.
Such a beautiful way to really get the baseline foundation on that specific practice.
Yes.
Cool.
And so the tarot, just so we have a little overview, it just includes 78 cards. We have 22 major arcana cards and 56 minor arcana cards. And basically the minor arcana cats are the cups, the wands, pentacles, and the swords. And those are the 4 elements. Again, we have the elements. We also have an elemental episode if you're interested in learning about the 4 elements. And then also you have the major arcana cards, and those are the major archetypes that we all walk through in our human journey.
And the minor is more of like the subtle realms that we still are able to encounter, but it's just on a more subtle scale. But the major arcana is like stuff that all of us really know in our lives.
Yeah, there's like a deeper stuff. And even to start with tarot, it sometimes helps to actually just use the major arcanas, because it can sometimes be a lot to trying to learn 78 cards. And so you can just start out with the 22 major arcanas and just do readings just with that. Like
So
I have a really old deck from my aunt, and it was like a pre Smith Rider-Waite tarot deck, and it has all the major arcana pictures, but then it has all the playing cards as the minor arcana. So in that one, I usually just use the major arcana when I use that. And it can be really exciting too, to just use major arcana at times too.
Yeah, because those are big cards.
Yeah.
And we want to, instead of making this a very informative, almost like a workshop style kind of podcast, we just want to be barely touching on the foundations of what this practice is, in case someone has never encountered this practice before. But we want to, and we'll leave the link in the description below or on the podcast episode box to link you to tarot.com. Just a really good site that will give you all the information on whatever it is that you want to know about this practice. So if you're just starting it out, we just want to kind of make this a more personal episode on a lot of the other things, making it more conversational than instructional.
Yes. So how did you start with tarot? Let's go into the more personal stuff right here.
Yeah.
How did you get your first deck? How did you get started?
Yeah. So, for a really long time, I had heard about tarot, but I had misconceptions about it, and I had this pretty averted energy towards the practice,
just because of the Christian background that I grew up in, and just not knowing anybody who practiced with it at all anyways. And then I started to get curious about it, and I felt that it was going to play a part in my life at some time, but it just never kind of felt like the right time. And then the first time that I went to Spirit Weavers was my third year, so 2 years ago. And I saw, what was it called? Like, Journey into the Tarot or something like that, a workshop. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the time. So it was the very first workshop that I went to from the whole gathering. And with Laura Zeuspan, she's come out with a really beautiful deck and was kind enough to send me one of them. And gosh, why can't I think of what the deck is called right now? It's a beautiful watercolor illustrated piece by her personally, and it was just a really beautiful time. She took us into a meditation, which led me to the Akashic record realm for the second time in a few days, and wow, it was just a beautiful thing. However, she gave me a deck at the end of it, because she was like, here, I have this deck and I feel like it belongs with you. And I didn't connect with it. I didn't connect with it for whatever reason. And it was a little pocket version of the Smith Rider-Waite. And my husband, Curtis, actually was really drawn to it. And that's his deck. And I didn't find a deck that I really resonated with until I bought my own the Wild Unknown deck. Oh my gosh. And that was my first one that I practiced with for about a year until Curtis got me my own Smith Rider-Waite for, I think it was one of my wedding gifts, or a birthday gift, maybe the birthday before we got married. But yeah, and it's just been a staple in my practice ever since. But when I started really practicing it with it intuitively after the workshop with you at the Sacred Sister Gathering, the moon ceremony that Hannah and I were doing last year, that's when things really changed for me with my own intuition.
Yes.
Beautiful.
And again, we're at that point, what we keep saying is first learn the rules and then break them. Because again, with tarot, it's the same thing. Like, first learn about the tarot and then you break them. You can do whatever you want. But with tarot, it's really important to first learn about the major and minor arcanas. There's a really good book that I also borrowed you or lent you.
Yeah. And Curtis calls it his book now.
It's called the
Journey Through the Tarot Guide. Tarot Guide.
No, something with like tarot for everyday life.
Okay.
I want to say something like that because
I'll look at the author and we'll leave it in the notes as well, because it's honestly, it leaves Curtis in tears every time, and he uses the book for every draw that he does now, and it is just, I highly recommend it for somebody who's just getting into tarot too, or looking to gain deeper insight with the cards.
Yeah, so that was what started it with me. So I first, when I was like 12 years old, I first got this playing card book. That's the way. And I tried it out, interestingly enough. And I just recently remembered that I've already done that, but way before. And then it was just too complicated. It was too much and it wasn't the right time for me. And when I moved to Los Angeles, the lady that I stayed with, who is like part of my soul family, and I met her through Facebook, which is just the most amazing synchronicity and everything, how it happened. But I rented a room from her in LA, and she always had a friend come over to read her cards. And then she also went to a tarot reader, and I went with her and experienced the tarot for the first time. And she also had an oracle deck. And so that was like my first, like, she always like guided me into that. And the friend of hers started reading the cards for me too. And then I was like, you know what, I can do that too. And that's when I went to this little store in West Hollywood, and it was right next to my favorite cafe. It was called Earth Cafe. and I noticed this metaphysical store, and that was my very first time that I set foot in a metaphysical store, and it was so magical. Like, it was almost like it felt a little bit forbidden. Like, it almost felt like, what am I doing here?
Going into the cave.
Yeah. And that was like the beginning of my spiritual journey, like way back. And I set my foot into the store and I just loved it. I loved it so much. It smelled so good. And I immediately went into the tarot section and saw that book, The Tarot for Everyday Life. And it is about the Smith Rider-Waite deck. And that's when I got the Smith Rider-Waite. And I still have that deck. I still use it. And it has guided me ever since. And I had phases in my life where I literally use it every single day.
Yeah.
Sometimes several times a day.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, because then that's a good little conversation to go off on. What kind of things, what kind of guidance can you receive? What kind of draws are there? So many.
And you can go as deep or as light as you want. You can do like actual like big spreads, like there are different spreads, like the Celtic Cross is a very famous one, or you can do past, present, future, where it's just 3 cards.
You could do one that's just 2 cards if you're trying to go light, and do something like let go and grow. What can I let go of, and what can I grow into?
Exactly.
You can make up your own questions. That's usually what I do.
Yeah, and that's like you start with the spreads and then you go into just doing whatever comes through. So a lot of times now, as I started, I was doing it more by the rules and just like, okay, this is this position and the spread, and that's that position. And now I'm just like shuffling the deck and just ask my question in my mind and then see what pops out. So there's just so many different ways, and you don't, you go your own journey. There is no right or wrong way of doing it. If it brings you joy in what you do and you feel like it brings you guidance, then you're doing it the right way. If you feel like it's blaming you or shaming you or making you feel like you're evil or doing something wrong, then that's not the right way of using it.
And just maybe not the right practice for you, or maybe not the right time to use that practice in your life. Because there have been stints as well where I've just totally backed off and I just haven't used it for a long time. Not because it wasn't resonant with me or whatever, but especially this time, the last few months after my mom passed, it just, a lot of things have been too much for me. So, I've just, stayed away until it's time to come back. And just like anything else, life goes in seasons, and letting those seasons naturally be with you and just sitting with them like they're your comfy friend is it makes things easier. For heaven's sakes, don't give yourself a hard time when you're already in a hard place.
Exactly. And it's all about balance too, because when we use it every day, I have phases where I use it every day, and then I just have to always watch myself to not get addicted or dependent on it.
Totally.
Because ultimately we want to practice on listening to our own intuition and not needing other things, tools, people to guide us.
Yeah.
Like not being dependent on it. Like we can take the advice, we can bring the guidance into our life. That's amazing, and it can be super supportive. But when we do it too much, we forget to trust our own instincts.
Exactly. And that's actually doing what we're not trying to do with the whole spiritual practice. But It's funny because we can find ourselves running into little spirals of attachment anywhere inside of spiritual practice or spirituality. So it's just, a little piece of awareness, because it's just a little lesson that you need to, keep yourself tight with. I've done it with yoga asana. I've done it with a lot of different spiritual practices. So it's okay.
It is very normal because we're in the scale, we go, sometimes we sway more right and then other times more left, and And this is the wave that we flow in life. And if we just go right all the time, at some points we're gonna get off the path and we get lost in that direction. So we gotta go more left again and maybe not go right for a little while. But then if we just go left for a long time, we go same thing, just on the other side, we get lost again. So finding this balance between right and left, between masculine and feminine, the intellect and intuition, trusting yourself and trusting others, just this beautiful dance, this beautiful wave of life.
And then I was also just thinking about what the path would look like of someone who just wants to take one foot in front of the other, and going down a really rigid straight path also doesn't feel very free or fun.
It's like soldiers like marching.
Yeah, totally, exactly. So find the way that feels good for you, and what's going to work for you often isn't going to be what works for other people. And that's actually a really good indication that you're finding your own path too. Yes. Oh, I just felt so many sparkles.
Oh, yes. You have a sparkle right here. I wanted to mention this little ritual that I've been doing. And ritual just being like another word for a spiritual practice. And just finding every new moon, finding some time to reflect. And as a lot of you probably know, I do astrology and I do moon manifesting. So I really work with each of the moon phases and look at the new moon and see how is that affecting me in my life, what is that activating in my birth chart, and how can I use that, and what seeds am I meant to plant for this month. And if you want to know more about that and have more guidance in that regard, you can also join my Facebook group, In Sync with Life, and the link is going to be in our description here in the podcast. But I just wanted to share this little practice that I've been picking up like the past 3 months, and it has been super helpful because every new moon I draw oracle cards for the upcoming month, and I've been doing that for years. But what I've picked up the last 3 months is that I bought this frame. You know how you can have like 3 photos next to each other in a frame? It's just like a normal plastic frame. You can get it even from the dollar store, I think, has it. Just like from any store, really. And I choose 3 oracle decks, the decks that I love the most at this time and that I resonate the most. And I pull 3 cards, 1 card of each deck, and then I place it into the frame, and I put this frame onto my desk in my office. And I look at it every single day. It's in my face, and it's just so beautiful to always see how it is unfolding, how the seeds are sprouting and blossoming throughout the month. And it's a really nice practice. It's quality over quantity because I don't do as many draws anymore, and I really focus on the draws that I am having. And it's, again, a phase, right? Because I'm going to go into the other phase again where I want to do a lot of draws because that's what feels right for me right now. But this is what I'm going through right now. So I do quality over quantity, and I dive deep into each spread that I'm taking. And this little frame really helps with that.
Why don't you share with us the ones that are out for you right now?
Yes.
And how they're resonating.
So one of them is the Work Your Light deck by Rebecca Campbell. And it is just so beautiful.
It's like a lot of really vibrantly colored clip art. It's
like a
gorgeous
collage style and pinkish, like pastel colors. And about priestessing and goddesses and really how to deeply connect with your light, like it says, work your light. And I love that deck. It's very powerful. It has very powerful messages, and she always gives an action guide at the end, which I also love. And then I have this other deck
But share the card though.
Oh, the card. Well, okay, so the cards that is for me for the solar eclipse that came up 2 weeks ago is the card of transformation. Things are changing at a cellular level and deep healing. And funny enough, on the day of first quarter, I woke up first quarter moon that is, which is a challenging moon, I woke up and my whole body ached. I felt earache and headache and throat ache, and I literally slept 20 hours of the 24 that day has. And I just was like, what is going on? And I really took it as an energetic DNA upgrade. I was like, I'd said to my husband, I'm like, I'm just upgrading my DNA right now. And literally it's all about what we choose to believe. I mean, I could be like, oh my gosh, I'm such a mess, and
I'm so sick.
How fucked up am I today, and how sick am I, and what is this gonna turn into? What kind of disease, or what is it? And I mean, it was still, it still sucked, because I was like, felt pain. But at the same time, I was just like, okay, I'm going to embrace that as an energetic DNA upgrade. And I really allowed myself to dive deeply into it and meditate and sleep a lot, and allow myself to receive support from my babysitter and my husband and the iPad. And just, as a mom, that is important, to allow yourself to receive support. And yeah, the next morning I woke up and I was good.
And you said about the spike too. Can you say about that correlation?
Oh yeah, and then right before the first quarter moon, there was a spike in the Schumann frequency, which is like the Schumann resonance was just the Gaia frequency. So basically our planet Earth is going through different waves and vibrations as well, because she is a living being. And you can look at the spikes that are happening in the energetic field, and some of us are being influenced by those spikes. And I felt like that was probably also part of what was happening. So yeah, I could definitely feel the deep healing and cellular level of transformation that I picked up in this oracle card. And interestingly enough, on the solar eclipse itself, I couldn't really, I didn't feel it at the solar eclipse. I was like, okay, cool, transformation, but I didn't really know how it's gonna end up with and how it's gonna look like. And this is the beauty of keeping the spreads too, and keeping the cards, because I could have easily just forget about it and just be like, yeah, maybe whatever. But then putting it out there and looking at it, or keeping it in your altar space, or keeping the cards somewhere that you look at on a regular basis, helps to see how they are manifesting in your life. And it helps believing more in your intuition as well, and believing how these things are coming true when you put your attention to it.
And the other one?
The other one is here, the universal, or it's called Messages from the Universe. From who is it? It's from a man. It is a very different oracle deck, because it is, and I'm gonna write the oracle deck in it and the author into the description. But this one is very different because it just has text. But I really like it in combination with the other two, because it has like a very simple message. And for this one, it's do something new, something different. And just seeing that every day, it just helps with life. It's just this little guidance of like, oh, cool. And then the last one that I have is the Sacred Rebel deck by Alana Fairchild. And she is amazing. And she has many other amazing decks, like the Kuan Yin and the Isis Oracle deck. And the Sacred Rebel deck is just so in-depth transformation. For that one, I would suggest to just pick one and really dive deeply into it, because it is so deep. It's like at least 2 pages of description for each card and an action guide, and it's very transforming if you allow it to be.
Yeah, very. Love that deck.
So
what a beautiful practice. Thank you for sharing that. And even if you don't have something like a frame that you have to put up, even though I really love that idea, I might steal it from you.
No stealing. That's like inspiring.
I think even like what I do is just kind of leave them out on my altar space, to my sacred workspace, just to, be reflecting on it for the time that I feel resonant to
to be reflecting on it. You know, like if you draw something on the new moon, say for instance, or the first quarter moon, or whenever it is that you draw it, and you're kind of working that problem out or working that challenge out, or just kind of seeing how the situation is unfolding that you were intending to receive the guidance on. It's there for you so that you can kind of be looking back nightly. I would have a ritual where I would just go and spend a little bit of time with the cards and just see how things are unfolding. And I think this is a really beautiful part of the misconception conversation, because sometimes outside conversations about these practices can really make it feel like a very demonic sort of, like these cards actually hold within them actual entities, actual beings inside of these decks, which from an energetic perspective, as a practitioner, the illustrations themselves are something, yeah, for sure. But it's not like this thing that could, like, you know, manifest itself into physical form and like hurt you or something like that,
and take control over you,
or like possess you, which is a very strong conversation from a lot of religious people about these practices.
And ultimately it's also having boundaries. I want to say, like what we talked about in a spiritual protection episode, because like with anything, with any tool in the world, you can use it for good or you can use it for bad. I mean, there are some tools that you can more likely use for bad stuff and others more likely to use more for good stuff.
Or even some decks.
And yeah, and I mean, there are some decks out there that are more dark. And there are practices that are more harmful. Because I mean, we don't want to just whitewash the whole spiritual world, because no, you can use these things to do bad stuff. Because ultimately, when you wish someone bad things, that's the same thing. If you gossip about someone, if you complain about someone, if you wish someone like bad stuff happening to them, you're sending them negative energies. And
it's a spell.
It's a spell, yes. So, and you can do that in different rituals. It just amplifies that spell in different ways, and yeah, you can use that for good or for bad. It's really up to you. We're using it for good stuff. We're using it for our own self-knowledge, for our own expansion, and also for helping us understand what other people are going through as well. Like, it helps a lot with relationships, kind of like knowing, where am I standing? Where is he standing? What am I feeling? What is he feeling? Just so that we can kind of like see, okay, how can we come together? It's really, that's just another way of how to use the tarot as well. But yeah.
And that leads me perfectly into my little tarot share. Perfect. So, this is actually a practice that my husband and I have come together on such a deeper level, and something that I would encourage partners that feel resonant with getting curious with, you know, how to grow deeper connection or conversation with each other. I would definitely say maybe going to have a little date night in a metaphysical shop, and you know, looking at decks and seeing what kind of illustrations really resonate or pique your interest, and maybe purchasing something together with the intention of having little self-reflective date nights together, where you just do like a little check-in with each other. It can be such a sweet thing, because it's like, what do we usually do when we go to dates? We do something that's outside of ourselves, that's like going to watch a movie or watch a show, or go out and, you know, consume some mind-altering substance, which can be cool too, but it can also be kind of a mindless practice to do together. So for those that are seeking to have more of an intentional time together, this has been something that's really been cool in my own partnership, and recently have been going through a pretty turbulent time with my own relationship, my own partnership, and the other day we had a pretty emotional, like a very releasing, tearful conversation about just some things that are circulating in our own marriage right now. And
I was gonna go and busy myself with work because he was working on music. He's a music producer. And I was like, you know what? I just am so drawn to my cards right now. So I got out my deck, and sometimes there's this feeling that just like my deck just wants to be thrown around. So I literally do. I just like throw the deck across the room and the cards go everywhere, and then I just like mess them all up and just shake them all around.
Yes.
And then gradually bring them back together. And then I start shuffling.
Nice.
And it just brings a totally fresh, new energy to the whole thing. So I for those of you that are looking to get a little messy with your spiritual practice, it's nice to do that too.
Oh yes, I do that too. It's so fun.
It feels so good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It has its space and time to do that.
Yeah. And it's necessary to really give a fresh feeling.
Yeah.
So I start shuffling, and I'm like, at this point, I don't even know what it is that I'm like really looking for, but just like, like what's going on right now? What is happening? And just as Curtis opens the closet door and like looks over in my direction, boom, Tower card comes out. And anyone that like hasn't seen the Tower card before in the Smith Rider-Waite, I just love this imagery. It's fantastic. It's alarming at first, for sure. It's this black background. It's this tower that's like getting hit by a lightning bolt. Flames are bursting up. Flames are bursting out of the windows, and two people are like seemingly falling to their death. And it's strong imagery.
And we actually mentioned that card a few times in the podcast already, because we said it was such a tower experience.
Tower moment, yeah.
And when we say that, that's what we mean, because it is this like sudden, a lot of times sudden ways of getting us out of our old restrictions.
Like
and
comfort zones.
Yeah. And this is also the good thing about it, because it's not just evil if you look at it and just be like, oh my god, horrible things are gonna come into my life. Yeah, it looks a little scary, and that's one of the misconceptions that tarot has, because it does have some scary imagery in it. But it always has, every single card has something good. And in that book, the Everyday, Tarot for Everyday, it actually always tells you the good stuff about it too, and that the Tower card is something that helps you, like an outside experience that helps you awaken and get out of your comfort zone and leave the old limits behind.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the moment, because the Tower card comes out and Curtis's eyes go down to it, and it was like the perfect moment, because he was like, oh my gosh, I heard you shuffling from inside the studio, and I came out and I wanted to see what card was coming out, and I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, what if it's the Tower card that comes out first? So it's like, boom, there's the invitation. He also wanted to busy himself with work. He was like, okay, this is serious conversation. I'm gonna go do music now. You go do your thing, I'll do mine thing. But then this drew us back together, and we could tell from this intuitive place, magical place inside of us, that we still had some conversation to have. And when we can press past our own our own plans,
Coping mechanisms,
but especially now during Mercury retrograde season, this is another, here, let me just do this little outside moment, because we are experiencing Mercury retrograde, in which a lot of people can find a lot of their plans derailed, and a lot of their, they feel like it's chaotic. It's chaos, because I just want to do all this stuff and it gets messed up, and you can flow with it and say, oh, I have this deeper subconscious stuff to assess, or you can say, all my shit's getting fucked up today.
Yeah.
So this is another place where Mercury retrograde is really able to give you the cues to lend yourself to letting go of your plans and really going with the flow of what's going on. So he comes in, sits down, and the next card that comes out is this harmonious marriage card, the Four of Wands, which is depicting seemingly those two same people.
Yes, so true.
In the same color robes and stuff. Curtis was like, oh my gosh, that looks like those same people.
That's amazing. And this is really also the beauty about tarot, when you see the cards next to each other and you can see it, you can read it like a journey, like a movie that is happening and unfolding, like a little story of your life.
Yeah, and truly that's what was happening. Like he and I are really experiencing some things that we're pressing past right now, and seeing this other card coming out, it's like, this is who we are actually. We're just experiencing this thing right now. This is just who we are at our natural state, this harmonious marriage, this partnership that we know that we have, the beauty of our companionship.
And it gives hope.
Yeah, you never want to look at something as just super, it doesn't make you feel good about life unless you know that you need a really big change, and then the truth is going to come to you, and be that as it may.
And it might have been, the Tower moment, and the next one might have been the Fool. Mm-hmm. Or, where it's just like one person going on a new journey, which would be like a whole different message than if you get the marriage card right after the Tower moment, So it just shows, like, this kind of shows what future are we tuning ourselves into. It doesn't mean that we are victim to what the cards are telling us. It doesn't mean that they are controlling our future or that it's set in stone. It just shows what are the energies that are coming to us right now. What are the energies that are we tuned into? Because if you zoom out of this time-space consciousness, you're in this infinite space where past, present, future are happening at the same time, and you can notice what energy, what kind of life am I tuning into? What am I attracting? And then it's up to you, your free will. Do you want to continue on this path? Does that look good for you? Or do you want to change it up? And then maybe after a while you can do another spread and see how the energies have shifted, which is fun too.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really good way to approach the conversation that a lot of religious people have around things like tarot being evil because it's telling the future, or because like what's going to happen, and we're, as humans, we're not supposed to know that kind of stuff. And that's just not what this practice is about. As humans, whether we want to associate ourselves with spiritual practices where we lean into this kind of foretelling, or we just are freaking smart people that can look at a situation, any given situation, literally. You do it in your life. We have things that are going on in our life, and we can have the foresight to say, oh, okay, because of what's going on right now, this is what's probably going to come of it. And this is just another active way of actually sitting down intentionally and saying, there is something that I want to see, what direction I'm heading in right now.
Exactly. And it's like we're in the ocean, and we have all these waves of life that are coming to us, and we can blind ourselves and be like, I don't even want to know what's going to come. But then we get hit by different waves, and we're like surprised that we're living in the state of chaos and unknowingness and confusion and feeling of helplessness. Or we can just open our eye, our third eye especially,
to see the things that
and see the future, not in detail, but see what kind of wave is coming, and then we can choose, what do we want to do with that wave? Do we want to dive into it? Some of the waves are so big you gotta dive through it, or it's a smaller wave that you can just ride and surf, and so having fun with it.
We digress. That is getting off on another tangent, which I'm happy that we did. But without going into too much detail of the specifics of what this specific draw that my husband and I shared, it was really just a beautiful depiction of the things that he has to let go of, and the place that I'm at in this whole scenario, this wild wave that's going on, and the things that I can tune into. And this is what I want to say about this. This is what makes this either something that is meaningless and holds no value, or can literally be transformative and totally life-changing. It's just the willingness of actually putting ourselves into action with the guidance that we receive from the cards. Does that make sense? So we can see everything laid out in front of us, But then if we say, okay, how am I going to act on it? And you're like, oh yeah, well, whatever. Maybe it's not time for me to put that effort in right now. It's not really going to mean that much to you.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of going to be pretty pointless and meaningless. And it's not going to be something that's, like really firm and stable.
And sometimes that is the case, because when you ask a question and you're unclear and you're not really tuned in, you're stressed while you're doing it, a lot of times the deck is going to show that. So it's really important before you do pull cards and tarot to find a moment in stillness to allow yourself to receive guidance and say, this is meaningful to me. Like, that's what I do in my practice, because it's so easy to just pull random cards and then they don't really mean anything. But if you go in before you pull the cards and be like, this is something meaningful to me now. And so when we allow it to be meaningful to us, that's when it becomes meaningful. It's that simple.
And I feel like we say that in pretty much every episode of this podcast in one way or another. And it's truly a main core value of the message that we want to get across so much. Because in a time where beliefs can be pretty flippant and you can kind of glom onto what a lot of, popular spiritual culture says is true or real, we really, really want to be helping people step into their own leadership in their own life and really getting curious to develop what you feel that the meaning is in your own spiritual practices that resonate with you, and not just lending your beliefs to what somebody else says is working for them.
Exactly. Yes, it is because ultimately we want to use it as an intuition tool. So helping us connect with our intuition, not letting the cards control your life or feel like you are in the mercy of the cards, of what the cards tell you, or that they have power or influencing your life. Like, I have it with my aunt. I have a little story that I want to share. She is a Cancer sun, or she was a Cancer sun. She crossed over, and she was meant to connect really deeply with her intuition as a Cancer, the power of intuition, power of vulnerability. So she was really drawn to a tarot deck, actually the Smith Rider-Waite deck that I now have inherited from her. Love her. And she did that, she did a draw because she intuitively felt like she would have Cancer. And she did the draw, and the deck confirmed that she had Cancer. And that's just another way of using the decks. You can use the upright position as a yes and the downright position as a no, and like choose 3 cards. And if you have like mostly yes, then the answer is yes. If you have mostly no's, mostly downward, then the answer is no. And so the cards confirmed that she had Cancer. And then a few weeks later, the test results came back that said that yes, she had Cancer. And that was the moment for her. Like, I feel like in that moment she had a choice to either really embrace her intuition because she already felt that inside of her, or, and that's what she did, she blamed the cards and she put them away. It was too creepy for her, and she never touched them again. And so again, it's our choice what we want to do with that, because ultimately the cards were just picking up on her intuition that she already felt to be true, but it was too scary for her to look at that truth that we already know is inside of us. But sometimes it can be so scary to see, like that tower moment, like it's there, but then to see it can be super scary, especially if you don't want to look at it. But when you allow yourself to sink into it, that's when transformation can happen.
Yeah, I want to share the beginning piece of this poem that I actually shared on my Instagram story today, that's written by a presidential candidate and spiritual teacher, Marianne Williamson. The beginning of this poem says, "It is our light and not our darkness that we fear the most. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure." And it's so true. So many of us know these intuitive feelings that we have, but to actually own it and be like, I'm intuitive, is a completely different thing that can
Yes.
take so many months of work to really step into that empowered and liberated state. And yeah, this is a whole nother huge topic.
And knowing that we all have intuitive abilities and we all have empathetic abilities. Some of us are born with it more developed because we've developed that already beforehand in our lives anyway. But we all can develop any talent that we want if we put the passion into it and our mindset.
Yeah. And even if you maybe were going along with that sentence and then didn't resonate with Hannah saying about past lives, whatever, maybe you can even tie it to your mom being super empathetic or intuitive, or your grandmother, maybe it's in your maternal line.
Exactly.
Maybe you're just literally naturally born that way. Maybe it has nothing to do with past lives if that doesn't resonate with you. Totally fine.
Yeah, and the reason why I said that is because everyone has learned it at some point in their lives.
And
even if we don't know it, that we have in this lifetime, we have it in others.
Yeah, and for you, this is a piece of your truth that you know that you have had past lifetimes where you were growing these capabilities.
Yeah, and that's why it
talents.
came easier to me. And in other times we might not be resonating with those lifetimes, and then it's just harder to develop. But we all can develop something if we put our action and our mind onto it. Obviously, it depends on the level of how deep we go into it, but it is possible for everybody. And this is my passion, because I feel like a lot of times we're being taught that there are psychics out there and only psychics should do these things, and there are these special people that can only do that.
Yeah.
And it is part of my passion to let people know we all have a third eye. It's not as developed. It depends on how you've trained it, of how developed it is, but you have the ability to develop your intuitive and psychic abilities.
And I mentioned this recently too, that I get so upset sometimes with people that are they've stepped into these healership spaces in their lives, but then they use it as like something that they have over somebody else, like, you need a healer, I need to come and heal you, instead approaching it still helping them out and helping them step into a more healed place, but coming at it from a messaging that says, I am a healer and I wish to help you awaken your own healership abilities so that you may heal yourself.
Yes. Thank you for saying that.
It's a really, really big misconception, and
We
I'm
are
tired
everything.
of it.
We are everything inside of us. We are everything inside of us. And again, we're coming to that point, what we said in the beginning of the podcast, that all the answers lie within us. And I hope that this episode has kind of sparked some interest in you to start listening to those answers within yourself through tarot or oracle decks.
Yeah, and I think before we wrap it up, I would love to just talk about some of the perceived darker cards in the deck, just like the Tower card. A lot of the ones with the black, a lot of black on the cards.
The Death card, the Devil. So in tarot, especially the Rider-Smith-Waite, the Smith-Rider-Waite deck, has a lot of dark imagery. And there are other tarot decks that aren't as dark. Like, for example, Joie de Vivre is one of them, which means joy of life. And that's the one that I use with my daughter a lot. She's 2 years old, and it's just nice because you know that there is no devil popping out or no death card coming out, you know.
The imagery is kind of alarming.
Yeah. It can get scary, and that's where a lot of misconceptions are coming off of that imagery. But knowing that you don't take it as seriously than when the devil card comes up. It's not that there is a devil in your life or a demon or you're possessed. It's more like that you're addicted to something, or that you're people pleasing, or someone else that has authority over you and is taking energy from you.
Or that energetically you're like chained to something that you may find pleasurable but you know is not good for you.
Yeah.
All of this is just symbolism. That's why you can kind of take the pressure off. And same thing with the Death card. It's like someone who hasn't experienced tarot, the Death card comes out and they're like, oh my god, who's gonna die?
Exactly. But we're dying all the time. Death is transformation. Even an orgasm, it's called le petit mort in French, which means the little death. So I mean, there are so many little deaths that we have throughout our lives, good deaths and like more challenging deaths, but we're always transforming. And
Yeah, things are dying all the time. Opportunities, all kinds of things are dying all the time. It's just the way that we look at death.
yes, and it also brings a new beginning. The old needs to die out in order for the new to come in.
Yeah, like
Here
in the
we are.
meditation.
Here we are in the lunar eclipse. Yeah, the meditation that we had. We want to let go of the old stuff to make space for the new to come into your life.
Yeah. This has been such a passionate episode.
Yes.
Very exciting.
So exciting. So our little action guide for you is to look into the tarot deck or an oracle deck that you resonate with. You can either go into a metaphysical store and check some out. You can go onto tarot.com. You can online choose you can buy it online, but also you can actually pull cards online, which is fun too. And there are also apps that you can download. I have a bunch of them on my phone.
I don't have any.
It is so fun. I have the Kuan Yin Oracle deck that I use on there, the Isis Oracle deck, both from Alana Fairchild. I got Dreams of Gaia. I got an Angel Tarot from Dorian Virtue, who has beautiful oracle decks as well, and tarot. So there are just so many different ones, and you can, especially from Hay House, I love those, the publisher the most, but you can find so many decks in the App Store, and you can just access it on your phone as well.
Yeah,
and it's just as magical as you make it.
Yeah, and if you want to, I follow Alana Fairchild on Instagram as well, and she does a weekly oracle draw, like just to pull a card for the week. And since she's the creator of the deck, she just gives a really beautiful description. And she always starts the videos, "Hello, beloved." She just has such a beautiful accent. I love her. I love her videos too.
Amazing.
She always has amazing tops that have beautiful patterns and really cool earrings too. I love her expression and her fashion. Before we wrap up this video, thank you for giving that call to action. And we want to let you know that before we started this episode today, we pulled a card from my deck saying, "What is the who's the influencer of this message today?" And we pulled the Major Arcana Star card, which is a beautiful depiction of, isn't that the Virgin?
The Virgin Woman.
The Virgin Woman,
That makes sense.
She's got one foot in the water, kneeling on the land, and she's pouring these two canteens of water that are down. And this is also the star the card for the age of Aquarius. The star
water bearer.
The water bearer. The star depicts Aquarian energy as well.
Yes, and when we say the Virgin, we mean a woman that owns herself. We're not talking about sexually not having sex or anything. Virgin actually means that a woman owns herself.
And she's naked in her beauty in the card.
Yes, she owns her powers. It's so beautiful, and she gives back to the earth and to the water. It's like all balanced. And there's this big star that makes the wish come true.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful card. So what we said after we pulled this card is may the light come and shine through in the messages that we have for the audience and anyone who's listening today. And we hope that this message has also provided you with whatever light it is that may bless all you come across today and from here on out.
Yes, allow yourself to receive.
What's our next episode going to be on?
The next episode is going to be on numerology.
Yay! So excited. Thank you so much for joining us in this beautiful, exciting episode today.
Yes, and thank yourself. I always like to say that because we sometimes forget to thank ourselves. Thank yourself for take time out of your busy day to really connect with us on such a deep level and to connect with your own inner truth. Thank you.
We love you.
Love you. Namaste.
Namaste.